Hi, I'm Sam Ecoff. I'm the chair of the National Federation of Music Clubs Junior Composers Contest. One question I get frequently is about resources to use during private music lessons when you're trying to teach students composition. And so today I thought I would go over a bunch of resources that I've used in my studio that have been very successful with my students. Now, it's not going to be an exhaustive list of all the potential resources that are out there, but perhaps it's a starting point. And I'd love to hear from you down in the comments about your favorite resources to use with your students when teaching composition. One of the first and best resources that I know is this book. It is called The Piano Teacher's Guide to Creative Composition by Carol Closey. I was super fortunate. Carol lived in Milwaukee, where I live, and she was my mentor. And having a resource like Carol to be able to call up and say, hey, I am struggling with this composition student. What do I do? What are some cool resources? She was just amazing. Sadly, she's not with us any longer, but you can gain from all of her wisdom, all of her wonderful knowledge by picking up this book. It contains complete lessons that you can use with your students in the course of private lessons. It also contains a lot of information about getting students started and helping them to refine their compositional ideas. It is a wonderful resource and a great starting point for anybody who is getting going teaching composition within the scope of private lessons. Again, it's called The Piano Teacher's Guide to Creative Composition by Carol Closey. It's available from Hal Leonard Publications. When I started teaching piano lessons, it was really helpful for me to have method books because it presented all of the information that my students needed to know in a sort of organized fashion. As I've gone on in my teaching career, I still use method books, but I'm much more comfortable integrating other resources for my students. But as someone who is starting teaching composition, a method book can be just as useful. And there are two that I think are just fantastic. The first is Music by Me. These books are written by Kevin Olson and Win-Ann Rossi. They are available from the FJH Music Company. There are 6 levels, and these are great workbooks to give to your students. As always, I don't give my students an option about this. Once we get into that first level of lesson book, I tell them here is your new lesson book, and here is your new composition book. This is just something we do. It's kind of the way I approach a lot of things with my students. If I have a student who really protests and they've tried it and they decide they don't want to compose, I accept that, but everybody gets a chance to experiment with composing and to find out if they like it and to hopefully find that that is a useful and wonderful part of their private music study. Music by Me presents a lot of lessons. In each lesson, they get us started with a concept and a few measures of music that the students can use to build on so that they're not starting from that blank page. It's a wonderful resource. I encourage you to check it out. It's 6 levels, so it's enough to get your students writing to the point where they can write compositions independently. Another favorite resource of mine is the Creative Composition Toolbox by Win-Ann Rossi, published by Alfred Music. There are also 6 levels of these books. In each lesson, she gets us started with a couple of measures so that students can begin to explore that particular tool in the toolbox. Sometimes it's dynamic, sometimes it's adding chords, sometimes it's pandiatonicism, all kinds of great things like that. And so the student gets to focus on one compositional concept in each of the lessons. At the end of each book, there is some manuscript paper, so the student can write a completely original composition, which can then be used to enter composition contests like the National Federation of Music Clubs Junior Composers Contest. These are wonderful resources. Again, there are 6 levels. So this is the Creative Composition Toolbox by Win-Ann Rossi, available from Alfred Music. For students who are just a little bit older, Composing Music by William Russo is a really wonderful resource. This was recommended to me by my mentor, Carol Closey. It's available from Chicago University Press. These books are about $30. They're not in print all of the time, so once a year when they come in print, I usually grab 3 or 4 copies so that I have them in my studio when students need them and want to purchase them. These books are designed for college students who are not music majors, who are taking a composition class. And it's a perfect resource for students who are in middle school or in high school. And William Russo does a fantastic job about talking about limitations and how important those restrictions and limitations are on the creative process to kind of free you from having so many options that you become paralyzed by all of those options. So it's a wonderful book. It's a little bit more expensive, but it can be a fantastic book for students who are perhaps a little bit too old for Music by Me or Win Ann Rossi's Creative Composition Toolbox series. So again, this is Composing Music, A New Approach by William Russo, available from Chicago University Press. The last thing I want to talk about is music theory. And a lot of us use the theory books which accompany the method books we use, and those are really good resources, and I would encourage you to use those. And also more advanced theory books that can be used once students have graduated from method books. Things like Theory Time by Heather Rathnow and the Fundamentals of Music Theory that go along with the Keith Snell literature books. However, I frequently get questions from teachers who say, I really need a resource that's a little bit past that, something that is really in depth. And for that, I have been using this book, Tonal Harmony, which is written by Stephen Koska and Dorothy Payne. It is a college-level textbook. It is the textbook which is used in many universities and colleges across the United States. It is priced as you would expect for a college-level textbook. However, you can find used copies online, and you don't have to have the most current edition. That can be a good way for students to save some money. Tonal Harmony takes a classical approach to part writing, voice leading, and the fundamentals of music, such as building triads, tetrads, harmonic progression, and all the things that you would expect to find in a college-level text. I love this book because it has a self-test at the end of each unit, and all the answers for the self-tests can be found in the back of the book. So students can do the work in the book and check themselves to make sure they're understanding the concepts. Accompanying this book is a workbook, and of course, the workbook does not have the answers for the students, so this would be something that you would check during the lesson. These books are a great option for students who are planning to go on in music and pursue music into college. I've even had students who are not planning to go on in music use these books because they can take the AP Music Theory test and get some college credits towards a humanities credit in a liberal arts degree. So again, these books are Tonal Harmony by Stephen Koska and Dorothy Payne. You want both the text and the workbook. And if you're someone who's maybe feeling a little bit shy about this, thinking, gee, this was tricky for me during my undergraduate degree, this could be a great opportunity to brush up on these skills. This could be a wonderful opportunity for you to revitalize your skills. When I first started teaching out of those books, even though I have a theory degree, I found myself staying 1 week ahead of the student I was leading through at first. But as I have done this more and more and more, I have become so comfortable with this, I could teach that text without even looking at the text anymore. And it's a great thing to have confidence in your own music theory skills, and it's a great motivator to up your skill set and really make sure that you're on top of your game for your students. I hope you found this review of different compositional materials useful. Again, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. What are some of your favorite resources when teaching composition that you use with your students? I'd love to hear about it. Let's start a conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week with more information about teaching composition. Have a great week. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, give me one of these and make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave me some comments about your favorite composition resources. Thanks and have a great week.